Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I thought I would try to do some clay sculpting. It's not a skill that I am extremely comfortable with or have a lot of expertise in, but I do follow a couple of people online that are. Ace of Clay is definitely one. I watch all his amazing stuff that he puts out there, as well as Jose Madera, aka PR Props. You've seen me do some modifications to some of the castings that I bought from him. He's definitely an amazing sculptor that you should check out if you haven't already. And I look on their feeds all the time and kind of get inspiration for things that they're making or techniques that they're using. And I thought I would try my hand a little bit more at sculpting. I don't think I'm ready to do a full mask. I've never cast anything that big before, but I decided to take a build from Skyrim, which some of you have definitely seen lots of videos on the channel of me doing before. And this build, I'm actually doing something that I've already made. So if you want to make a full version out of EVA foam, I do have a free template for a Dragon Priest mask on my channel. I wanted to cast one, and I'm going to make one about the size of the palm of my hand, maybe a little bit bigger, so I can cast a bunch of them and make all the ones that are in the game, at least paint it up like that at some point probably, or it'll just sit there on the shelf and gather dust. So today we are going to clay sculpt, cast, and mold some Skyrim Dragon Priest masks. Let's get to building. Like I said in the intro, I know very little about sculpting and am just giving it a go. I have these materials linked on my Amazon affiliates page in the description below. Buy through the link and make it easy for yourself to find what I'm using here, and it also helps the channel out at the same time. For this sculpt, I'm using some medium monster clay. I carefully heat it up in the microwave to make it more pliable to sculpt. To give myself a reference image to go off of, I found this Dragon Priest mask on Sketchfab. My sculpting tools are at the ready, and I'm throwing it down on some corrugated plastic, which will eventually be the material I use to make the box to pour my mold in. I bulk out the base shape and for the most part use my hands instead of the tools to sculpt with. Now I'm rolling out a sheet to make an overlay where all the details are. I don't want this build to just be the sculpting part, so let's skip forward to the end result and build a box. At this stage, I'm about an hour and a half into the project and I'm relatively happy with the shape. I should have smoothed it out a little more at this stage, but got a little impatient, so I moved on. I'll end up having to spend more time sanding each one, which is a pain. Next step is to build walls around my sculpt to pour my mold mixture in. I just used more corrugated plastic and seal up all the seams with hot glue. I'm using a trial size of some Rebound 25 from Smooth On, not a sponsor but would love it if they would. Casting materials can be expensive. I took a guess that it would probably take a whole kit, mix equal parts A and B thoroughly until a solid unified color. I spray my sculpt with a little mold release, even though it's probably not necessary, and pour the stuff in. After about 6 hours, it's ready to demold for my sculpt. Anybody else keep leftover containers to use for mixing things? Now time to see how it went. Pull apart the box and pry it off of the base. I trim off the edges because the little flappy things bug me. It pulls out clean and the clay may be melted down again to reuse later. Now time to cast. I'm using Smooth Cast 300 from Smooth On, still not a sponsor. It's equal parts A and B resin that sets up in just a couple of minutes. I put tape around the mold to keep from spilling all over and simply slush the resin all around my mold. After about 4 or 5 layers, it's ready to demold. After about 10 minutes, I pull the cured resin out of the mold and repeat the steps again for a couple more castings. Because I don't take time to smooth out the sculpt before casting, I'm now paying for that mistake. I use sanding blocks, my Dremel, sandpaper, by hand, and using sanding sticks in the hard to reach places. Eventually, I get the surfaces to an acceptable level that I can then start to paint. I put on my respirator, turn on a ventilation fan, and carve out the wood grain texture onto the surface of the casting. Work slow and be careful, those bits can rip through fingers like butter. Just look at the hands of any maker you know, chances are they have a few Dremel battle scars. Areas on my mold that are too thin, I put a little free-form air epoxy on the inside to bulk it out. I hit them all with a base coat of black spray paint. Pick the 3 paint schemes I want to go with and start laying down some Plat Effects acrylic paint. The first one I'm painting is Otar. I'm sure I said that wrong. I mostly just brush it on with a cheap chip brush. I found some good resolution images in a Google search and just started mixing paints and layering colors together until I was happy with the green stone look I was going for. My second mask was Hevnarok. Yeah, I'm sure I missaid that one too. Kind of dry brushed on some dark silver, then a lighter silver over the top once that had dried, real heavy on the edges. Once it dried again, I added some black and brown acrylic washes into the cracks and very lightly put a couple of patches of red to make the enchantment look.
And my last one is the wooden mask you get from within the central barrel in Labyrinthium. Since I carved in the wood grain detail earlier, this one is easy. I started with the darkest brown and gradually built up lighter and lighter layers until I reached the desired color, putting less and less paint on the lighter I go. Now I'm contemplating making the shrine to house them all, maybe when I free up some space in the man cave from selling some props on Etsy. Links to my shop in the description below.
And we are finished. Here is the mold that I got from this project, and like I said, I'm relatively new at mold making, casting, all that type of stuff, and there are definitely things that I can improve on my technique, like allowing for a little bit of a lip or overhang so that I could do a better slush and not have stuff pouring out. That's just a rookie mistake. But the end result was not too bad. I did not so great a job at smoothing out the sculpt before I cast it, so I did have to do a lot of sanding and cleanup to make them look a little bit better. It could still use a little bit of work, but overall it's not too bad, especially for something this size that I've never made before. So hopefully I'll get more comfortable as I go and build bigger and bigger, but here's the end result. Maybe you'll try and sculpt something out of clay and cast it and mold it and all that stuff and expand your skill set just a little bit. Definitely check out other people that do it. Support their channels. Give positive feedback. Let those artists know that what they're doing is awesome and inspiring. But yeah, maybe you'll try and make one of these masks and impress your friends with your ability to pluck something out of a video game and make it into a miniature version in real life. I mean, it's my favorite of the three. Maybe you'll get some...
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I mean, I guess I could, like, wear 3 at one time. I don't think you can do that in the game. That's hacking. Peace out!